So welcome guys to our last webinar for the series, and last one possibly for the year as well. So welcome along. This one here is part of our Cloud A2K YouTube channel in respect to our Bluebeam webinar series. So this is the last one. So my name is Philip Corbett. I'll be your webinar host today. Let's jump into it. So our agenda for today, guys, it's all actually around 3D PDFs and the main focus there. So before I get into that information, I'm going to quickly give you a little brief about Cloud A2K, what Bluebeam Review can offer, and then get into the agenda, which is about utilizing 3D PDFs, how to create those from your workflow programs, how the navigation actually sort of works, how you can evaluate the 3D data that is actually pulled out from these PDFs. And then also how you can push and pull information from these 3D PDFs. So there's a lot of information you can extract out, which is great. I just want to show you a few different workflows of how we can actually use that information. So any questions throughout the webinar today, guys, feel free to ask. I will collate those at the very end of the session and answer what I can. So feel free. A little bit about Cloud A2K. So Cloud A2K is part of the A2K brand. So we're here to deliver our software and hardware solutions, whether it be through consulting, training, development, and management services. All the staff at A2K, especially the technical side, are all from the industry ourselves. Formerly, I'm a structural draftsman, but we all also have other guys who have come from the architectural world, the engineering world, construction, infrastructure, and manufacturing sectors as well. So all here to essentially deliver our knowledge back to you guys. So Bluebeam itself was founded in about 2002. Was originally an add-in for SolidWorks, I believe, and has grown rapidly ever since. So it's got quite a large global reach these days. It's used very heavily in the US market, and it's becoming very popular over here for not just construction, but the AE industry in general. So the applications for Bluebeam too are quite endless. Now, a little bit about myself before I get too far. Formerly a structural draftsman, as I mentioned before, up here in Brisbane. And as a structural draftsman, my main tool sets were Revit, Navisworks, and Bluebeam. So I've been using Bluebeam since roughly about 2014. Seen some changes since then, all for the good, which is great. The series itself that we're going through, so this is the last one in the 4-part series. If you'd like to see the other videos that we have done for this series, guys, it is on our Cloud A2K YouTube channel. So feel free to jump onto there and you can see the one that's all about changing your drawings, which is using comparing documents and overlaying. There's the second one, which is the tracking of the site issues. So that's using different tool chests, how to create all those, using actions and forms in our R5 process, sorry. The one that I did previously, number 3, which is the value management and cost reduction. So I was just using studio sessions and also help with management of information from site. And today is all about the 3D PDFs, so the data-enriched PDFs that we did out of these 3D models. So that's our 4th one. Now, as a part of this series as well, we actually were doing microbrewery events. Today is the last one down in Melbourne. Sydney and Brisbane, unfortunately, have already been done. But keep you in the loop. I'm sure there'll be more events coming next year. So I'll just quickly skip over that one. Bluebeam itself, so it's quite a very efficient tool. Guys, it's heavily used in the AC industry as well, from not just simply a marking up process, but all the way through to capturing information from site and actually relaying that back to the consultants. So as we imagine, this is all here to help us be more efficient, increase revenues, reduce costs, and also minimize risks. So some big key factors in there. The PDF aspect that Bluebeam utilizes, it's quite powerful in regards to its metadata. So as you are adding information to your PDF, that is stored against the PDF, so you can actually extract that later and understand it, report it, dashboard it, you name it. So it's a very, very powerful aspect to using this particular tool, not just simply as just a quick markup and have a look to see what's done. So very powerful in respect to metadata. You can start embedding a lot of different hyperlinks between, whether it's simply different PDFs that you want to be able to navigate between very quickly, all the way through to hyperlinking in, say, websites, brochures, any other different file types as well, in order to become more of a quick action to find that next document or highlight that next document. So very powerful in that respect. If you have a lot of reports, forms along those lines, there's also the bookmarking aspect. So you can actually print those directly from the authoring file. So Word is a great example as well for your reports. And it actually will bookmark all the information for you nice and neatly. So again, it's a navigation tool that becomes very, very easy to find where you are in the document. So that's a big thing Bluebeam does very well. File attachments, so very similar to like almost a hyperlinking in respect. It allows you to actually embed a little attachment icon onto your actual PDF to go, hey, go find this particular file. You know, that's in relation to the current comment that's on that PDF. So it's pretty good. And the different types of files you can attach is pretty much endless. So I think of the PDF as like a bit of a container. You can embed just different links onto that container. Images, processes images very well as well. You can actually embed them directly onto the PDF or even make them hyperlinks, which again is a really, really neat way of reducing file sizes, making them quite manageable. So images is a big one. Spaces as well. So when you are going through and actually checking off a drawing, you can actually put in little different spaces. And as you're working in that space, the markups can be associated to that space. So it makes essentially your marking up process more itemized. So it makes it a little bit easier to go, okay, well, in space A, I have 20 comments that I need to resolve. And it could be a room number, it could be a different part of the building, it could be an area in civil structures, well, it could be to do with a bridge. So spaces can be used very efficiently to help break up our information we're trying to relate through our PDFs. And then lucky last year, 3D data. So this is what we're going to get into today. It's all about the extracting of information from the authoring files and viewing as a 3D PDF. So, and the beauty of it too is that 3D PDF can be shared around and opened up in Bluebeam and other programs, other PDF programs. Unfortunately, the other PDF programs, you won't get to see the data. But it's a great visual tool, especially if the consultant or even the client simply doesn't have access to the authoring file itself or even the authoring software package, for instance, like your Revit and your Navisworks. So great tool for that. A lot of different workflows you can use this tool for, forever finding new ones every single day. But some of the common ones we do find across the industry is things like quantity markups, quantity takeoffs. So that's using all the measurement tools in order to capture information or capture, product requirements to do with the project. There's our collaboration tools as well. So they're different ways of just simply marking up and relaying a message across. That can be locally stored or on our cloud. A lot of different varieties of respect to collaboration. We can overlay different sites, different PDFs on top of each other to give more of a 2D Navisworks feel, I guess you could say, when we only have the drawings. We also have drawing management tools such as our sets, where we can continually add more and more different revisions of drawings in there and see the actual project grow and all the different changes to the drawings, and also push out markups as a part of that process as well and actually see the history of that actual drawing development. So some really powerful tools there. We also have the document management area. So that's our studio projects environment, which I will point out is on the cloud and it is free when you do have a license of Bluebeam. Any file type you want, as many files as you want, which is even better. And it's free and it can be hosted on the US or the UK servers. Very, very cool. Then we had the field issues. So that was actually in respect of actually using studio sessions. So it's a great way where you can collaborate on the same PDF at the same time with about 500 people, I do believe, and up to, I think it's 1,000 people now, and up to 1,000 files at the same time as well. So those studio sessions are very, very powerful. You want a very quick meeting for 10 minutes, or if you want to have a studio session for the entire project, it's up to you how you'd like to use that one. So as I said, we're always finding new workflows to use this tool, which is quite good. Now to jump into Bluebeam itself and go through the presentation. I'll just quickly wrap up this PowerPoint. So yes, any questions, guys, feel free to ask at any time, and I'll run through them at the end of the session. So now I'm actually going to jump into Revit first before I get too carried away and show you how to actually export out a 3D PDF. So in front of me, I have my Revit session. I have a 3D view open, so that's quite important as well. And in that 3D view, I have everything turned on that I want to export out. Okay, if anyone's familiar with Revit, you do have functionalities to turn off different parts through our visibility graphics here to see certain elements and get rid of others. Okay, it is important to do that. because Bluebeam will export everything you see in front of you. So just to check, underneath your add-ins, you'll have your Bluebeam add-in on top of, so it's Revit, Navisworks, I think it's Aventa, Solid Edge, or SolidWorks, and there is one other, I just can't remember at the moment. You can install it on top. Now, I will point out though, Navisworks, Review Standard will not install itself on top of these authoring programs. You'll need Review CAD or Review Extreme in order to have this functionality. So I myself have Review Extreme, so I have that capability to export it out from my authoring program. So just a heads up. Now, it will add itself into the add-ins area for Revit. It's in different areas depending on the program. And underneath your Bluebeam add-in is the options to simply create standard 2D, print 2D drawings from the actual tool, and there's settings associated to that. And there's also the creation of the 3D PDFs. There's two different versions. You've got your full 3D PDF, which extracts the entire scenario environment we have in front of us. And there's also the U3D PDFs, which allows us to create little smaller snippets. Okay, and I can add those to drawings as a title sheet, or embed that into the PDF as a part of my RFR process. Maybe it's a very complicated detail I want to sort of make a bit more of a visual tool to help with that aid. So now, before I get too carried away and export out my first one, there is a couple of settings that's worthwhile mentioning. As you're exporting it out, you have the option here to default which orientation you want the view to sit. So when you naturally open it up, it becomes that orientation. We have the different page size as well. So an A4 is probably not a bad size, rather than using a really weird size I have there. And most importantly, and it is on by default, is the actual exporting of all the properties associated to the elements. So it's very important that one is ticked on. As I said, it is by default. So please maintain that. Otherwise, you'll get a 3D element as visual, but is basically an empty shell. So by going OK in there, I'm now going to create my first 3D PDF. Now I'm going to make a version 2 of my current one I have here, because it does take a little bit of time to export. So whilst that's saving away in the background, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Before I do, just a heads up, it will take a little bit of time here to print this 3D PDF. It's got to understand all the elements and prepare all the data associated behind it, and then print it out. So expect for this size model, it's probably going to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes actually to print it. Now, one thing we have also done with this model as well is every single element in here, we have a custom parameter we've actually added to just help with the data flow back and forth between Bluebeam and Revit. Okay, I'm going to show that a little bit later, so just bear that in mind. Now in Bluebeam, I'm going to actually open up one I prepared earlier. So here's my 3D PDF. Okay, whilst the other one's still printing. When you open it up, be a little bit patient with it, because you got to remember there's quite a lot of metadata that it's trying to show you. So it's going to take a little bit of time to open in comparison to just a standard 2D PDF. So this is the environment we have for our 3D PDFs. Okay, it looks like a standard PDF from the get-go. Main thing straight away, you'll notice that you're actually almost in a 3D environment. So from the start, up the very top here, you'll notice that this little bar here appears from the get-go as well. This here is the 3D bar, essentially. There is other ways to find these tools. I'll slowly get through those as we go. And more importantly, probably shouldn't have done that. I've just hidden it on me, haven't I? Okay, worst comes to worst, and it does hide itself like it just did right there. You can find it back through your 3D model tree at the very bottom there. Okay, if you can't see the 3D model tree, the old right-click show is one of these ones attached down the very bottom. Now, in standard, you can open up this 3D model tree. Okay, so you can still get to it. However, in order to print from the authoring file, you need at least Bluebeam Review. Bluebeam Review CAD in order to do so. All right, cool. Bars back. So bars back on top. So I must have selected outside the 3D PDF. Working my way across at the very top here, we have a hit list, first of all the 3D views. Okay, so this authoring file itself that was created from had contained quite a lot of other different orientations of the 3D model. They naturally will come across. Okay, so exactly the same as a lot of other 3D interrogation tools like Navisworks. It will actually export all the views out. So if you'd like to clean it up, you're more than welcome to go through the view management and actually just delete the ones you do not need. Okay. I can customize a lot of these as well. So I can actually put in different background colors and lighting, rendering and shading, which is very, very neat. I'll get to those as we get to it. But clean the ones you don't need, okay, because this list can get out of hand very, very quickly when we start adding markups, okay. Now, we do have a little cool tool here that allows us to simply, by pressing play, spin the model, or if I'd like to actually cycle between views, okay. So if I had quite a different sort of views that I want to do for maybe a presentation purpose, you can have those set up within the authoring file, or you can save those within Bluebeam itself here, and it will simply just play through the views. So it's quite a neat little tool. If I want to get back to the original default view, that one right there. Okay, so this is your default button. Moving across, we have a few different tools in regards to simply orbiting and getting around. A good hint right here, guys, is I find rotate quite tedious to use. It sort of doesn't really hold the Z-axis too well, so you're kind of sort of just spitting freely. Whereas if I swap it to spin, flattens one of my axes for me to make my spin a little bit easier. So when you are trying to navigate through these models, I generally like to use the spin tool instead. Panning, still a mouse cursor down, so you still have that same functionality. And as you can see there, based on selections as well, it will highlight in a different color. So, sorry. You can also switch it between orthographic and perspective as well. So very similar to a lot of the 3D authoring tools, you have that functionality to switch between those as well. And moving across, we have different visual ways to actually show the 3D PDF. So for instance, illustration, sort of changes to an illustration view, all the way through to simply a wireframe, or all the way out to shaded. So ones I tend to stick to are things like solid and possibly transparent. Okay, just to still give quite a clear image of what is actually going on with the project without losing too much. To the right of that is your lighting. So we can actually play around with some lighting in here, change our different colors across. I might go nighttime, for instance, it throws a bit of a shade in there. If I go back to solid at the same time, you can sort of see there's a few shades. So lighting is quite cool. If you're not interested in it, just simply leave it as the day. Background colors. So this can help us from a little bit of a presentation point of view, as we can have a little bit of a background color in there. Okay, you can change that to anything you'd like. Probably the more subtle the color, the nicer it's going to be on the eyes, not going to lie. And then to the right of that, we can actually start going through and almost splitting them all apart a little bit through our cross section and also our section boxes. So if I have a quick look at the cross section in here, it's going to split straight through the mold itself, give us a plane. And by clicking on the plane, I'll have the option to start pulling this up and down. Okay. Now, what we can also do in respect to this is, whilst we are splitting, if you wanted to take a few little captures, you can right click and copy that as an image. Okay, by copying as an image, I'm just going to create a quick little PDF in here. Let's just say a blank template, that will do. Control V, paste. There's now a snippet based on what I was just looking at. So any point in time, guys, you can take these little snippets. Sorry, that's the new model that was just printed. Okay, and you can use that cross section, sorry, in order to achieve that. Now, on top of that as well, you also have the sectional boxes. So this is a 6 face, essentially. You can push and pull however you'd like in order to crop this right down. And a very similar style as well is you can right click and copy that image as well. Okay, just paste this over here. So you can imagine we can just start getting a huge collection of just different parts of the picture, different parts of the actual 3D elements. So now if you want to trim these images up, guys, underneath your tools and your image markup and then images, you can crop them. So I'm just going to crop out that little portion of it and I'll just resize it for you. Okay, so that's underneath tools. So I'll just wait for this to move out of the way. There we go, tools, markup, and image. All right. Now, to help us out from a marking up point of view as well, if I jump back into this space, I might want to add some additional comments about that particular window I have in front of me. Okay, you can still use all your standard markup tools in this 3D PDF. So I'm going to refer back to my tool chest where my common tools are all saved. And I'm going to use my little engineering markup right now, which is a Cloud Plus, and go, okay, that particular glazing here, let's maybe review the window spacing. Okay, drop that one on there. If I close that little markup down now, it'll take me back to the master 3D view. And if I turn off the section boxes as well, I've got my 3D model back, but you'll see there's little mirror balls essentially appearing these days. That's the markup itself. So if you click onto that, it will take you directly back to it. Beauty of it too is it will start storing itself in the list here as well. So if you do happen to lose them, you don't essentially lose them completely. They do start listing themselves in your markup list. Oh, sorry, in your view list right there. So as you can imagine, you can start going through and going, okay, well, what is this? Let's mark this one up. Hotel supports, question mark, as many comments as we wish, and they simply become a hit list for us, which is very, very neat. So that's the markups. Default is the fantastic tool and quickly uncrop it, which is great. Now the three little arrows that you see right there is a really, really cool way of actually saying to pull apart the model. So if I grab, say, for instance, the roof here, and I go, I wonder what would happen if I slid that back a little bit. Okay, I can grab the element using this little three arrow tool. I can pull the element based on a certain axis, and it's moving it. Okay, so I can start moving things around to give a bit of a visual perspective of actually what is going on. Now you can also pull it up and down as well. You can sort of see itself as appearing through the model. Now a nice little visual cue that they've done here as well is as you are pulling the elements through other elements, they will make the element that you have highlighted dominant and make everything around it transparent that could be possibly in front of it. So it's a very, very handy way so you don't lose the actual elements. So very, very cool. Same thing if you start selecting an element and you spin around the model, you'll notice that everything in front of it goes transparent, okay, in order to maintain a visual on that particular element. So that's very, very cool. Now, if that roof, for instance, we want to reset it, right click in there is an option to reset the selected elements. Oop, I've clearly selected the wrong element there. That's not helpful. There we go, right click, reset, and that brings it back into its original position. So great way of just tinkering with essentially the 3D model, just seeing what's going on. So now what you just saw then with the right click as well, we have quite a few other options. If I grab an element here, I can isolate that element or isolate that part, okay, very similar concept, and also reset everything back in if I need, show all parts. Okay, so if you just want to itemize one or two elements at a time, you can actually do that. So if I hold my shift and control key down and then isolate, I've just got those elements. Alrighty, reset. Now on top of that, I can go through as a part of a navigation. I can grab that element and make it the center point, okay, and also make it the center part. And what it means is as I start rotating, it becomes the center of my rotation as well. Okay, so that is nice and neat in there. Now, a few other things you can do as well is if you right click, I can render particular parts. I have the option between my tools, such as my navigation tools and views as well, so you can switch between them nice and easily, and also my view options. Okay, so by right clicking, you get a bit of a feel. Oh, so you get the same options if that toolbar happens to disappear. Okay, so that's all tucked in there, and fit window. So that's also there as well. So So as you imagine, from a navigation, visualizing, marking up, it's nice and easy. It's very, very simple tool to use. Now the important part, I guess you could say about these 3D PDFs, the data that's actually associated to it. So in this 3D model tree, I'm pulling up right now, guys, if I click onto an element, let's say, oh, there we go, an exterior wall in here, okay? It is picked up in the element tree right here, the item itself, so it's given itself a name, the ID number that is respective to the Revit element ID number. And sorry, if I click the one above it, sorry, that's the master, this is the secondaries. So it works in a hierarchy stance. It's giving me everything about the breakdown of the colors, its rendering, its ID, what phases was it created in Revit, materials, volumes, areas. And if I go show you all the columns, it brings across every single piece of data as possible to do with this particular model. Okay. Now I mentioned before that we had one tucked in here that was called Cloud A2K comments. The idea of that one is as I'm going through and reviewing this in the 3D PDF, I can start using this to start making some comments back and force these comments back into the actual Revit environment. Okay, so I can use this as a master review tool and go, okay, maybe it's the roof pitch. We may need to make it a bit steeper. Oops. Good if my spelling was on point today. Okay, that's attached itself to the element as a bit of metadata. Okay, the idea of that now is I can take this metadata and I can filter it firstly, probably should mention. So by using filters, I can start looking for certain types of elements. And if I start scrolling down, find, for instance, maybe a piece of wall, okay, a wall, we'll turn everything off and highlight those walls for me. Okay, so there is filtering capabilities. Okay, that makes the reviewing a little bit easier. If I just simply clear those filters. Those comments that I've just added by using that custom column that was natively in Revit that I've brought across as a part of the export to this 3D PDF, I can ultimately send back out as a CSV file. Okay. So by exporting that one out, I'll just override the current one I have in there. Okay. I can then utilize this particular CSV file. There's my Cloud A2K comments. So because I only put it against a couple of elements in there, it's actually sorting grouping. I want to make that a filter. I can just start identifying which ones I need. So there you go, it's highlighted that respective one. And I can do it the manual way, which is copying the element ID, going back into Revit and using the element ID finder, which is this one here. Show, there it is, okay. It's actually highlighted for me, and then I can go through and there is my comment, okay. Now I just happen to actually have that sitting in there just to show you guys. Okay, but you can start using this tool to highlight the elements back in the authoring file in order to know what to change. So if you want to automate that process and get a little bit more tricky with this, you can actually take this CSV file and run it through something like Dynamo or BIMlink and actually pull that information directly back into Revit. Okay, at the moment it is currently sitting outside and isolated, and I was just using the element ID to find it. But you could come up with Dynamo script or BIMlink is a very, very handy tool. It allows you to actually pull in Excel data and it will attach itself to the actual elements themselves. Okay. And to help us in the Revit environment when we are doing this, we actually had created a 3D view, and that 3D view has a particular filter, and that filter is looking for anything that actually had anything in the Cloud A2K comments. Okay. So it's quite powerful with what you can do utilizing the metadata at the very, very bottom of your 3D PDF. So bear that in mind, guys. It's very, very, very handy tool as part of the review. Now that's it for 3D PDFs, just the basic 3D PDFs. So if any questions, fire away. one other thing I'd like to show you guys as well is just the U3D. So think of it as just a more refined, smaller version. So get back in Revit here. I'm going to quickly go through and crop my 3D view down to something a little bit smaller. Let's say here, here, okay. To make it more visually appealing, I'm just going to go turn off that section box there. Okay. I can use the add-in Bluebeam U3D. I'm going to save that one right there. Place it. This should be a lot quicker because we don't have as many elements. And in the background, I'm going to go through and open up an RFI form. This one right here. So to help us with our instance here, it's just using an RFI form. We want to use a little piece of the 3D model and actually make it a part of this RFI. Okay, so our particular form's been set up in a way we're having difficulty to explain exactly what is happening with a particular room or particular environment. So we've given them a little snippet of the drawing. But using U3Ds, we can actually embed them as part of a PDF. Okay, so instead of being a complete standalone PDF, we can have it as a little part of a master PDF, essentially, you could say. So just waiting for that to print. Yes, sorry, publish. It looks like it has. To add them to a PDF, you go through your edit PDF content. You can add in a 3D PDF, and that's a U3D too. You draw in your little zone that you want the PDF to sit. It'll open up. Fantastic. It's found it for me straight away in my location. You can then tell it which view to default itself to. I might throw a little bit of a background in there as well, lighting schemes and rendering modes as well. Going OK, loads it up. And if I just give it a quick little spin, switch that to spin instead of rotate, there we go. That now is a part of my PDF. So I can send that off and that is actually embedded itself within that RFI form, which is great. So that's using U3Ds. Now the U3D itself, if I click onto it, does still contain metadata. So if I pull this up, even though it's a smaller chunk of the actual master file itself, all the elements you see in there still has its metadata that's pulled itself across. So you can see element IDs, you can see all the different types of information, volumes, areas, if there's rates up against it, if there's custom data, pulls it all out. So very, very cool way, not just to visually help communicate from an RFI, but you still have metadata to actually use. So that there, guys, is a little bit about 3D PDFs. Does anyone have any questions in relation to what we've seen so far today? Looks like we're all good. Excellent, guys. As I said, this will be ultimately thrown up onto the Cloud HK YouTube channel. So if you guys are keeping up to date with or using as a reference, guys, this will be up there. Our past 3 webinars for our Bluebeam sessions as well are up there as well, guys. So if you happen to miss it or if anyone's interested that just going to make the line today, feel free to go to our YouTube channel. Excellent, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. Doesn't look like there's any questions, which is great. Appreciate coming along to the last one of the year. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. And thank you for attending.